All right, now in Auth0, let's look at a new page. Rules. Rules are very powerful in Auth0. A rule is basically a function, a JavaScript function that is executed every time the user logs in. And with this, you can do a lot of powerful things. Now here, let's create our first rule. First, we need to select a template. We can start with an empty template, or we can choose from one of the existing ones. Now here are some examples. Allow access during weekdays for a specific app, or Active Directory group membership. There are tons and tons of templates here, and I highly recommend you to go through them once to see the options available to you. Now here I'm going to use a template under Enrich Profile. This template is called Add Country to the User Profile. First, let's give it a name. So I'm going to change this to Set the User Name. Now look at this function, this JavaScript function. This function is called every time the user logs in. Now here we have three parameters: the user object, the context, and from here we can access the incoming request, and we can also modify the access token on the fly. And the third parameter is a callback that is used internally by Auth0. So in the sample code here, we're checking if the request includes geolocation of the user. We use that to set the country property of the user object. Now we don't need this here. I'm going to modify this. Set the user.name to user.user_metadata.name. So I'm simply copying the value of one property into another. And let's clean up all these comments. Now be sure to leave the callback here, otherwise things are not going to work. Now let's save this. The rule is saved, beautiful. Now here we can try this rule. So here's a sample JSON object. Note that the name of the user is set to their email. So I'm going to add user_metadata here to simulate our user object. And here we're going to have the name property. Set it to Mosh. Now let's scroll down, try. So this is what we get. The profile is, now look, the name property is no longer set to the user's email. Now, what if we don't have this name property here? Let's see what happens. Note that we no longer have the name property here. So I want to change my implementation so at least return the user's email as their name. So let's make this code a little bit more robust. If user.user_metadata is defined and user.user_metadata.name is also defined, then we will override the name property of the user. Let's save the changes. So now let's try this. I'm going to log out and log in again. All right, look at the console. Here's our profile object, and you can see the name property is perfectly set here. Next, I'm going to show you how to assign a user to a role.